12-12.
12-12. 2022. You're listening to Oblast with Don and Kevin. I'm Kevin.
I'm done.
And it's another Monday here in Cleveland. Undead from. And Don and I are back.
Here we are.
And did you have a good week?
I mean, I guess so. You know?
Same old, same old.
I mean, it really is. It's like it's everything's just starting to blend together. Because it's just like, didn't I just talk to Kevin? I'm like, it's time again. Well, that was quick. Yeah, no, it was all right weekend. I mean, whatever.
I'm going to Hocking Hills later this week. Exactly. Hocker Hills. No, Hocking Hills.
Yeah.
Got a cabin. I'm going to stay there.
That's what they do up there.
By myself. No, I'm just kidding. By myself.
Yeah, I'm just going up there with you and a bear.
Just get away for a while. Be a hermit.
Yeah.
In a cabin all alone.
Write your manifesto.
Right. Yes. Now I'm going to be with the lady friend. Oh, hold on. Let me turn this one volume up. It's probably going to mess the audio up for everybody.
Turn it up.
I got to turn it up a little bit. It's too quiet. Okay. It's a little bit better. Yeah.
Going to Hocking Hills. You got a cabin?
Yeah. Anyway, so I'll have something to talk about next week. About whatever. We're going to go caving, which I'm not really a fan of, but
because caves are so small.
The girl likes it. Yeah. And it's like caverns. You're going underground. You know, I mean, it's been there for thousands of years, probably, you know, so it's generally safe, of course, but it's like, I always just wonder with these things, like if it did cave in and I was trapped, like who's coming to get me out?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I'm going to be pitch black in a cave in the dark, you know, for forever. I don't know.
They're like, sorry, sir, we can get everybody else out, but not you. You're just too tall.
Right.
Yeah. Like, I'm stuck down here.
It just seems it's a place that's like ripe for danger. Like it's just something bad could go wrong. It will go wrong.
Your mentality is, yeah, these have been here for thousands of years, but as soon as I walk in there, that's when it's going to fall apart.
Yep. Yeah. Yes. That's because
I did the same thing.
That's because I think that there's probably some sort of, this whole thing is probably just, you know, a simulation or some kind of, some entity or something is chosen to fuck with me. Right. My whole life kind of thing. So why not at the cave, you know? If I wasn't a superstitious guy, I wouldn't care. I'd be like, yeah, statistically, you're fine. You know, nothing will happen. But I don't think that way.
Exactly, because that's exactly why like people are like, here, pet my boa, or people are like, here, I got this, you know, I got this scorpion. Why don't you let it ride your face or whatever? And it's just like, no, because I'm going to be the one that it bites. I'm going to be the one that it stings.
Yep. Yeah.
I'm the one who tastes like meat.
Yeah, it's not going to go well. It'll be fine. I mean, it'll, you know, because if I do get stuck, I'm certain there'll be like 100 other people in there. So they'll do all the screaming and I'll just sit in the dark, hoping that they can claw their way out or something.
Or once again, they'll just say, hey, you're the tall guy. Stand here and we're all going to climb you out.
Yeah.
Then nobody can lift you.
We can eat him and survive. Wait. Got the shortest straw, mister. Yeah. So we're gonna do that, but whatever. And yeah, I went to the rec center yesterday.
I saw that. I was like, what the hell is he doing up there? They don't have Karate Champ no more. Ye are Kung Fu.
I know, man. Back in the day, that's how I used to go swimming up there with my brothers and sisters, stepbrothers and sisters, and you know, then they had arcade games in the concession area. Yeah, and they had that football game. They had that one hockey game with the plastic on the top. It was kind of like the playing piece. It wasn't even a video game. It was like
it's like foosball hockey.
Yeah. But yeah. And then there was a Tempest. I'm pretty sure there was a Galaga or a Galaxian. I think it was Galaxian, actually.
It usually is.
Yeah, and Karate Champ.
Most definitely Karate Champ.
Tempest, and yeah, I mean,
Kung Fu.
Yeah, maybe that too. they change them every so often, but I never really had any money other than to go swimming, but if I could find a quarter or something, I'd play one of those games. And I never really bought anything from the concession stand because I didn't have any money.
Right.
But I went in there and, I expected it to look different because it's been like 30 years or something since I've been in it, so I was not expecting it to look the same. But I was actually surprised that it mostly looked the same. Like the front is obviously very different than it used to be. It used to just be like almost like a movie theater entrance. There was like a window in the middle, and then you could go through like those, doors on either side, like a rotating type of thing, those little push things that crank when you go through.
Turnstile,
there you go. And then you would kind of walk towards the pool or whatever. Now they got desks and stuff. I just walked right in. Nobody asked me anything, which is, I also thought was kind of funny because like normally I think you got to pay to get in to do these things, but they just saw me and were just like, hello. And I'm like, hello. And just confidently walked right by them, did not explain where I was going. And it was just a little kid's birthday type of thing. And I like to stalk little kids and hang out where they're at. So that's why I was the girls' daughters' friends. So, they were in the smaller rink. There's 2 rinks. And the thing that I realized, when I was invited to this thing is, in terms of recreational centers in towns around here, in a rec center now, specifically a rec center, I can't think of another one other than North Olmsted that makes ice.
Right.
Like, it's kind of weird even to be like telling your city, your people in your city, hey, we're going to build a new rec center and we're going to put in an ice rink. I mean, people would be like, what? You know what I mean? These days, like no one cares about hockey. You know what I mean? So they'd be like, why would you want that? Now, there are places around, like Strongsville's got Hoover Arena, where I think the Monsters practice. And then Lakewood's got Winterhurst. There's a couple of outdoor ones. Westlake's got a little tiny outdoor one by the movie theater.
Yeah,
there's another one over there on like 117th. But there might be another rec center that has ice rink, but especially an indoor one. But I'm not aware of any. I mean, I've never been to one.
Rec centers.
Yeah, I mean, I've been to Strongsville's rec center. I've been to Brecksville's. I've been to anyway. But I mean, you would hear people going. You know what I mean? Like you would know people, and they would be like, "I'm going skating at such and such." You know what I mean? And really not. It's not a lot of that going on at all.
Yeah.
And that, and that's another weird thing about Cleveland too, is like, we do have an amateur hockey league, but, they built the arena that the Cavs play in, whatever it's called today. And, it makes ice, and it's like we have the nicest AHL facility that there is, I'm pretty sure. I've heard that before because like it's really meant for a professional hockey team. It's meant for an NHL team, and it's an AHL team that uses it, and it's like kind of exclusively theirs. We don't have, and we never have had an NHL team. We have had
the Barons, but
they weren't NHL.
There was a semi-pro.
They were pro, but they were when the AHL was pro.
Oh.
And then NHL became the thing and AHL became the minor league. Whatever. I mean, you could argue that the Lumberjacks, because that was just a separate league, so that was like a professional league, but it's kind of like the XFL to the NFL. You know what I mean? Like it's not the same thing, but it is sort of. But it's just kind of weird. It's a Cleveland weird thing about hockey. It's kind of like the town wants to have it, but not really.
It's like
so weird.
Everybody sits there and goes, we want hockey, and then they give you a minor league team, and they're like, well, we don't want that. It's like, well, wait a minute, what do you? It's the same thing with soccer, because how many times have we had indoor soccer teams? I mean, we had indoor soccer championships, and people are like, look, Cleveland does have a championship, and they're like, where? And it's like right here in indoor soccer, and people go, yeah, we meant a real one. And it's just
I think the problem with soccer, baseball, is that they play in summer a lot, and summer in Cleveland, just to be outside is just really kind of painful.
Yeah.
It's not like another town. I don't know how to describe it, because like if I was living in a different part of the country and it was summertime, it's probably hot, but it's probably nice in a way. Like it's like, oh, the sun's hot. Let's get in some shade. It's not so bad over here. You know, can have a drink, hang out. You know, people are barbecuing or whatever. Cleveland, it gets hot, and all the moisture that's been sucked up into the ground all winter and spring long starts going up into the air, and we've talked about this before. It's like a hot blanket of moisture that just sits on you. Yeah, it's just awful. It's just you just sweat like you're not even doing anything. You're just like you're just drenched. It's the worst. And so like that's one of the reasons why I can see people not wanting to go to the like baseball games or you know, soccer games or things that are outside, because they don't want to go out in that fucking weather, you know? Right. Whereas like they'll go out in cold weather. They'll go out to football games all day. You know what I mean? I mean, it helps if the team's winning. But you know, I don't know. But the hockey, I mean, I don't know. It's a weird thing too with like the NHL and Cleveland as well, because like there's never really been a big interest in putting a team here. I don't know. It doesn't matter, I suppose. Hockey is it's kind of dead, really. I mean, it's there, but it's only there in the local markets. Like if you live in a town that has a hockey team, hockey's alive. But if you live in a town that doesn't have a hockey team, I mean, it's pretty much not on TV.
I don't know about that, because I lived in Columbus for a little while.
Well, they have a hockey team.
And they have a hockey team.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
But the people weren't all that into it.
Well,
I would run into more like Cincinnati Bengals fans and be like, what? Cincinnati? Like, what? And they're like, yeah, we're halfway between Cincinnati and Cleveland. It's like, okay, I understand that. And it's like, okay, where's all the hockey people at? And then everybody's looking at you like, go Buckeyes.
Yeah. You know, I heard with Columbus that they had that little district, you know, where the arena is that they have down there and everything. That they went to the taxpayers for that, and the taxpayers said no. Yeah. And they ended up doing it anyway. And then they're like, oh, we need help from the taxpayers, because and it's all, you know, they I think they won a Stanley, right? They were at least in it. I think so.
No.
I think they were in it.
No. Columbus?
Yeah.
They were never in the Stanley Cup.
Come on. Yeah, they were, weren't they?
They never made it to the finals.
Let me see. Blue Jackets. Stanley.
Folks, just wait.
I'm going to look it up.
Here's another moment where Kevin Barrett's going to be like, well, Anderson, you were right.
No, you're right. You're right. But they did qualify for the playoffs.
For the playoffs, yeah. I think that was the only time. I think they've only been in there like once or twice.
There's something like that. But yeah. But anyway, they're also just they're not a well-financed team. I mean, historically, I haven't looked into it in the last, say, 5-6 years, so I might be talking out my ass. But historically, like, the owner didn't have a lot of money, and it's kind of like how the Indians are kind of managed, you know.
It's a professional team in a college town.
That also
what I mean? It's just that's kind of like the thing where it's just like what are you guys doing? It's like the NHL was like, well, we don't want to put a team in Cleveland.
Right.
Well, Columbus sounds like a good idea, but then people are like, well, Cleveland would be better because that's more of a pro sports city. But there's not enough people here that go, or like you said,
there might be. I mean, nobody's ever really taken a shot at it, but I think it would do better in Columbus. The Columbus Stadium is actually pretty nice, but it doesn't have a big attendance thing. You know, they kind of have the second level, half of it like filled up with like tables for people to eat food and stuff. Where like if they played in the arena in Cleveland, you know, that holds like, I don't know, greater than 15,000. It depends on how it's laid out between basketball and hockey, but better than 15,000. And it's really, it's made for that. And they could take the Monsters and stick them in Columbus and probably get the same number of people going to those games to watch, you know? I don't know. I mean, it's probably more people coming from out of town to watch the teams that are there, like Pittsburgh or Detroit or something, you know,
right?
Than it is going
the Blackhawks are in town.
Right. Go watch that or something. But yeah, I don't know. It is what it is. It's just a weird thing. That's all I mean. It's just weird around here about hockey. But I also just think that hockey is kind of mismanaged. It's been mismanaged for a long time. Ever since they went off Channel 9, or not Channel 19, Fox Sports, which used to be Channel 19 in a while. Because like when they were on ESPN is what I mean. When they were on ESPN, they were all over the place because ESPN has 10 different channels and you could see it all the time. And they were doing that thing. Remember that thing? Nobody liked it, but remember they did that thing where the hockey puck kind of glowed on the screen or something. So ESPN was trying to get people more involved and stuff. And I remember being at bars and people were watching games because there was a lot of marketing behind it at that point. Yeah. And, people were kind of into it. But then they were like, yeah, we're not going to pay ESPN that money anymore. And we're going to be on the Versus network. And everyone was like, who? And it was like one channel on cable and you might see a game once in a while on it. Yeah. And the rest of the time, it's all local market stuff. And I don't even know what it is today, but they're still not on ESPN. And that just is ridiculous. Like, you can't work that out with that network because you think about it, ESPN, they don't have the NFL or the baseball or anything. That's all owned by either,
ESPN has Monday Night Football.
Okay, so they have that now.
But that's all they got. They don't have any.
They have a little bit then, but the national game. But that's kind of the thing. They have a lot of airtime to fill. And when they lost hockey, they filled it all with poker. Remember that? And that's actually where when that deal fell through with hockey, that's where all that freaking poker popularity came from because ESPN was putting all that freaking
poker boom.
What's that called? Texas Hold'em, championships and stuff on there. And people were all into hockey all of a sudden, but that was just a side effect. I'm sure it worked out for ESPN. They're like, shit, people are watching this. Wow.
Yeah.
But it was, it was a side effect because it's not really, it's not what people expect when they watch it. I'm not gonna say it's not a sport. I don't think it is, but,
hockey?
No,
or
poker.
Okay.
But
neither is the spelling bee.
Yeah. Right. But that's what I'm saying. ESPN's got plenty of, and they probably could use hockey as well. So it seems to me like the two sides could totally negotiate and come to an agreement. But I don't know. It's just greed, or it's just there's bad blood between the two. I don't know what it is, but it's ruined. It's kind of ruined hockey at a national level. Again, if you're in a local market where there is hockey, you don't probably notice this because it's on your TV. Come to Cleveland, it ain't on nothing. It's not on. Yeah. I mean, it might be on occasionally at a bar, but for the most part, nah. It's not here. Has no presence whatsoever. You could go up to anybody. People that like sports, anybody, and people that like hockey probably just be like, hey, how's the Red Wings doing or whatever? And they'd be like, I have no idea.
That's what I was going to say. You could go up to somebody with a hockey jersey on and be like, hey, how's your team doing? They'd be like, I don't really know.
Yeah. It's just, nope. Nah, nothing.
Oh, they're doing pretty good. And then you start naming players and they're like, I don't know that guy.
Yeah. Yeah. And it might be just the Canada thing because it's big in Canada. So they probably got a sweet deal up in Canada with whatever, television systems up there and cable systems, whatever. And it probably works for them. And then they're just looking at the United States and they're just like, nah.
It's just weird. It's just weird because it's like a Canadian sport, but now most of the teams are in America.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
I guess.
Well, they went through that whole thing. And that's another thing that's also weird about it. They put these teams in the desert, like the Coyotes. Yeah. And they got these ones down in Florida, and they had
Colorado.
Was it Atlanta that has the one?
Atlanta's got they got the
and these warm climate things. But the reason they did that was for television deals because for commercials because you're sitting there saying like you want to get the whole country, you want to be able to sell your product. All over the country. So you wanted to have teams not just in like the Northeast and the West. You wanted to have it all over the country. So they put these teams everywhere in order to, sort of spread it around, even though a lot of those teams that they stuck there, at least for a while, I haven't followed these teams in a long time, but most of them sucked, right? Because they were just thrown in there to be like, here's a hockey team, now run the fucking thing. And it was just a shitty team, but they just did it for these commercial rights. But then they don't end up with the television deals that they want, like they did it for that reason. And then they didn't end up getting there. And I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, I guess they're making enough money, or that they just trust whoever runs it, the board of the owners of hockey teams, or I don't know how it works, but it's like, if you look at any other major league sport, like even baseball, it's not doing as great as it used to. It's doing way the fuck better than hockey is. And you're just kind of like you would think that the owners of the hockey teams and stuff would get together and be like I think they call it the governor, is like the CEO or whatever it is of the league. They call him a governor. And they'd be like, the governor is this, he sucks, let's get rid of him and get somebody who knows what they're doing in here. Just bring somebody in from the NFL or something that's done this stuff before, but maybe all the owners, they're all cheap because none of them are billionaires, they're just all like multi-millionaires or something. And they're all like, yeah, we don't really want to spend the money doing any of that. I don't know what it is. I don't know. I'm just making shit up, but it is weird. It's weird that it's hardly noticed as a sport really anymore. It used to be a lot bigger. And then it's just, I mean, there's like, people are way more interested in, I don't know.
It's weird how like
the games. Go ahead.
The more because hockey's popular, like obviously in like Russia and, Norway and Sweden and like over there, it's like, it's a popular game. It's just weird that like how many, like the most popular sports in the world, soccer and hockey, because it's one, they're up there, as probably in the top 3, 4.
Yeah, I believe
what I mean, because baseball is not worldwide, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Neither is football, but I mean, hockey and soccer are, and it's popular around the world. But as soon as you come into the United States, everybody's like, ugh.
Well, I think, and I think, and again, I think a part of it goes back to the way the NHL is running things. Like, to get it out of those. I mean, maybe the commercial deals, but like, if these teams don't want to be there, put them into cold weather towns where it makes more sense. You know what I mean? Like, give Cleveland, or I don't know, someplace in Massachusetts, or anywhere else where it's cold in the wintertime. Yeah, give them a team, because that makes it so there's something to do in that city that's not, in this. Nobody wants to see something in air. Nobody wants to watch hockey in Arizona, man. Like, what for? I mean, it's
air conditioning.
Yeah, God, I guess. But I mean, it's just,
if you think about it,
you're going to walk around with a jersey on outside. Like, you'd be sweating your ass off all the time. Like, what do they got? Like, they got wife beater jerseys out there to keep you cool. I don't know.
It's have to.
Yeah, it's bizarre to me. I don't really get it. And listen, I'm done griping about it, but I just think it's weird. Because Cleveland, like I said, it's just weird. Do I want a hockey team in Cleveland? I honestly don't know, because I would enjoy it, but I probably couldn't afford the tickets, like everything. It would be overpriced.
Yeah.
And, but the other part of it is just that, like, I would probably watch it on TV and I would be into it for that reason. So that would be cool. It's just that Cleveland has this, like, it has this ego problem with, like, people here wouldn't like it because they would feel like it's a threat to the other sports, especially football. So they would hate on it because it's not football or something. You know what I mean? You know how this town is. Like, you'd be like, hey, you going to watch the hockey game? Fuck that, man. I like football. You know what I mean? You'd be like, why can't you watch both, man? You can watch basketball and football. Nah. And that's just how, and I'm getting too old for that. I'd have to like start murdering. And, I don't really want to start my career of murder.
Cleveland people are just stuck up anyway. So if it's not somebody famous, or if it's not something well known that they know everybody's going to go to, nobody wants to do it. You know what I mean? Yeah. There's nobody that's out there. It's like, I don't care. I'm going to go do this by myself because, they're like, oh, my friends don't like it. Well, I still do. So yeah, it's just,
but I still think, I think there's enough people in Northeast Ohio that it could generate enough people. There's enough businesses that would buy the suites and all that kind of stuff around here. There's enough rich doctors and everything else in this freaking town that they could support hockey at NHL if they wanted to. But they I don't know. I don't know. Not while I'm alive, maybe. At least not for another 20 years or something, because it's just weird. If they ever knock that arena down and build another one, I don't know if they'll build it to make ice. They might not. Let's talk about my brother.
You got the Disney on Ice, man.
We're going to do a show about my brother. My brother.
Speaking of guys who wear hockey jerseys
all the time. Brian Baird, the devil. So let's start. Let's start in the beginning. So I was born, and I looked out, and there was his face. Now,
fire and brimstone.
My brother, when we were young, when we were living in Michigan, he was kind of a nerd. I mean, not like an educated nerd. That's not even a good word for him. He just was really into the military when he was a kid. He's a little kid, you know what I mean? Like I was a little kid, he was a little kid, and he was really into the military. Wore an army cap all the time, soldiering and all that sort of stuff. He had joined the Civil Air Patrol, and so he would go and this was late when we were living out there, before we moved to Ohio. But he would march and go into all these sorts of things, salute people and all this sort of stuff. Like he was actually really into it, and pretty much, pretty sure he was going to go off into the military. So he wasn't the dude that that you met, let's say, and everybody else met on the radio show later on. He was just this, young dude that wanted to be in the service. And then, my dad got, moved to Ohio and got married, and we lived with our stepbrothers and sisters who were vastly different than us. My brother and I, they were cool, in a different way. They weren't like heavy metal cool. They were just like the kind of kids that that were popular in high school. Yeah. Like my one youngest sister became like student council president of like the elementary school. They hung out with all the most popular people in school kind of thing, where we didn't. I mean, I wasn't doing that. And certainly my brother wasn't doing that. And so my brother and we got grounded a lot, and, just because we were rotten kids. No, I mean, we were in a really strict household, and I think that, we didn't have a lot of money. And when you're raising 7 kids in a household, it's easier to manage a lot of the kids if you ground them, because then they're not out breaking the neighbor's property that's going to cost you money. They're not getting injured, whatever. Yeah. That's what I think part of the reason was. And, we would get these, I could get grounded for 6 months and things like that. That's a long time to be grounded, right? For something it's ridiculous. And what grounded meant in my house, it varied a little bit, but it definitely meant that you could not go outside and play. I could go outside and do my paper route. I could go to school, but after school, I could not go out and play. And most of the time, it meant no television. So I couldn't watch TV. And so basically, I would eat dinner, do homework, and I could play with my family members. So I could play board games and stuff, but not in front of the TV. I would just sit in my room, and my brother would as well, and in his room. And I don't know, I think I played G.I. Joe or Lego or something by myself. Very isolating as a kid. And that kind of went on, for a while. And so my brother, because he was grounded so much, he decided to be in band. Right? Because that was an after school activity that was social. He could get out of the house without, having his crazy stepmom screaming at him. And, so he joined every kind of band thing that there was, marching band, pep band, jazz band, whatever. I don't know. I can't even name them all, but he was in all of them, and whatever instrument they needed somebody to play, he learned how to play the instrument. And the guy, he started off with a saxophone. He played the drums, he could play the bass guitar. The dude could do just, if he had to, they could just be can you play the clarinet? Cause that's the only thing we got open. Yeah, I'll play the clarinet. Woo! Just what are you doing, man? It's crazy. And then about 5 years of that. And he was going into his senior year, and I was going into 8th grade. And the divorce of our stepmom had finished. And so we were living with my dad in Jamestown apartments at that point. So we went from a colonial house that, with all these people in it, to just the 3 of us living in Jamestown in this little apartment. And I think at that time, and this is before I met Don, I think at that time it was like, it was a 1-bedroom apartment. Because I know that because,
it was that one downstairs.
I think because, it's kind of hard to remember this exactly. Like, I think what it was is that my dad got a 1-bedroom apartment and he was sleeping, you know, on the couch, or I was sleeping on the couch or something. And then he sort of divided the rooms up. But then what happened was my brother, no. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Anyway, it doesn't matter. It was small. Let's just say that it was small, because the problem is with Jamestown, Don knows, I moved to different places in Jamestown. Like there was like 3 or 4 different apartments while I was living there. It kind of moved around every so often based on my dad's financial situation. So, kind of moved around a lot inside that same complex. And none of them were much bigger or better, but you'd get an extra bedroom or you wouldn't, kind of thing.
Right.
And so anyway, but that year, Brian, he was, mostly still, a band dude, but he was a senior. So, people they just left him alone. He'd go party with his friends or whatever. Mostly band people weren't like smoking pot or anything. They just, occasionally would drink, you know what I mean? But not even that much, really. And I mostly just spent my time on the Commodore 64 computer, hanging out with like Don Cease. And then the plan was we were both going to move to California after my brother graduated. I would go to high school out in Downey in Los Angeles County, and my brother was going to go live out there with us. But at the last minute, my brother decided to join the Navy. So he went into the Navy, and I went out to L.A. to live with my mom, who I didn't get along with, for about a year and a half, if you include both summers. And did you push your mom out a window? Yeah. So that
I really thought that was going to make you badass. I thought people were going to be afraid of you after that. I'm sorry.
And so I that experiment didn't work. I made a couple of friends out there, a few friends, but I didn't go to school half the year. I just was really depressed. A lot of things happened while I was out there that I just didn't get on with, etc. I liked LA. I liked the weather. I liked the friends that I made. I didn't like school, which I didn't like school anyway. You know what I mean? Regardless of where I was. But my mom had chosen a career path where when she had first bought the house, she had kind of a 9-to-5 type of job. It wasn't, she was a cook or a bake, pastry chef. She got up early. It wasn't 9 to 5, it was probably like 6 to 3 or something, but it was normal hours. But then they called her up and they said, hey, the Stouffer Hotels at the time was like, we're going to open a brand new hotel in LA at the airport, Stouffer's LAX. We want you to be the executive chef. And it was a sizable raise for my mom. And she was like, she said yes, which was a mistake, because if she was going to be a full-time running a production kitchen craziness, she was not going to be able to raise a kid at the same time. Because look, wasn't a good kid. I was young. I was 14, and look, I was a kid. You know what I mean? Like I'm not going to do the right thing all the time. I tried to do some things, but I was by myself. I'm used to being in like a Gestapo camp with my former stepmom, and now all of a sudden I'm basically alone the entire time.
Yeah.
Like do it all on your own, Kevin. Good luck, buddy. And wash your own clothes and make your own food and pack your own lunch and do everything yourself, because my mom was never home. And so, that was pretty awful. So anyway, my dad eventually was like, all right, you got to come back home. This isn't going to work, which my dad, at that point, when I had gone back, he was so broke because he owed the IRS all this money during his bad marriage that he didn't pay the IRS for, I don't know why. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what happened, but he owed him, over $12,000 or $20,000 or something, which back then was just an insurmountable amount of money when you're barely making ends meet. So he was just broke out of his mind. And, we just lived in this little apartment. We had this old TV. We didn't have a VCR or anything. We ended up buying one that was hot because I knew a guy. And, but we didn't have cable or anything like that. And then my brother was like 2 years out of the Navy. So, after like around ninth grade, at some point my ninth grade, he, for the second time, came to Cleveland and was like, yeah, we're going to live with you guys again, And at that point, my brother was a different dude. Like he was the dude that you met and, was post Navy, all into punk rock and thrash metal. Like that was what that dude was all about, which was cool. He came back and he tried to hang out with his original friends from high school, but they just weren't, the type of dudes he wanted to hang out with anymore. You know what I mean? Like they were all kind of straight edge or whatever you want to call it. They didn't party like he did. And he was just out to conquer at that point. Like he was getting laid all the time and, willing to just drink and, smoke and do whatever, it's just partying. Yeah. And, he worked at Wendy's with us for a minute and then he went over to Hill's department store and, that's where he met, a lot of his friends, his new friends. And then we all ended up hanging out together at that point. But, I think everybody's heard the tale, Don, but why don't you tell the tale of how you met my brother?
You mean the meeting in the Wendy's parking lot?
Sure.
Where
yeah.
I think I was selling you my brother's stereo or something like that. Like my brother was throwing out his stereo, and I was like, "I'll sell it. I could sell it to you for like $10 or whatever." You're like, "I'll take it."
I don't even know what it was. What did I need? What was that?
Because it was for Brian. Because Brian had just came back into town. You're like, "My brother's in town."
Oh, it's like a car stereo.
No, it was a home stereo.
Oh, okay. Was it a boombox kind of?
But there was no. It was like a turntable.
Oh,
and a radio cassette deck. But it was no speakers or anything like that. It was just the power. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it sounds like something I would buy. I just don't remember it at all.
Well, it wasn't because it was for Brian. You were like, my brother's in town and he wanted to buy a stereo. If you're going to throw that out, I'll buy it off you or whatever it was. Okay, some kind of situation like that.
Yeah.
And I'm standing. I don't know why we were standing in the middle of the parking lot, but we were standing or maybe I was out there cleaning. I was out there sweeping the parking lot, and you came walking up. You're like, hey, da 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 da, and you're like, my brother, here comes my brother. And I turned around and looked, and it was like part Gumby, part Monty Python, where he just rolled towards me. I swear, I don't think he was walking. I didn't see feet moving. He just kind of, with his head tilted, the sunglasses on, like Brian Baird does. And he rolled up and he's like, I'm going over. You're like, this is my buddy Don. This is Anderson or whatever. And he's like, hey. And I'm like, hey, what's up? And he looked at you and he's like, I'm going over to Hills. And you're like, all right, man, I'll catch up with you in a minute. And he just like spun around and just rolled away. And I was just like, that was your brother? And you're like, yeah, it's my brother Brian.
Yeah, he when he first was around, he was kind of in this like weird kind of state of confused fashion, which I think kind of hung with him for a while. Like because he was part California, shorts, flip flops, at that point half shirts, I think even, and then he graduated more towards metal and punk. So then he eventually got like concert t-shirts and leather jacket, camouflage pants, but then he turned those into shorts, right? The famous camouflage shorts. And he would still wear flip-flops all the time. Like, the guy was always wearing fucking flip-flops. And he would always have sunglasses on all the time, even when it was inside.
The Ray-Bans.
Yeah.
Like the Ray-Ban style.
The gargoyles or whatever he had. Yeah, or whatever. He'd buy cheap ones. He'd always have those. He'd always have some sort of Walkman, as did I. But yeah. And then he got a car. He got my dad's old car. And we were it was so stupid. So like he didn't have a car. And his ex-girlfriend's parents were like, hey, we got this Citation type of car. If you want it, you can have it. You know, it needs brakes or something.
Yeah.
And my brother brings it home, and he's like, hey, Dad, they gave me this car. I got to get it. You know, I got to get the title and everything for it. And blah, 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 blah. And my dad like checks it out, and he's like, well, listen, since I'm paying the rent and paying all the food and everything, I'm going to take this car, and you can have my car. So that's the kind of
right.
That's the kind of impoverished, stupid shit that we had going on. That my dad's car was worse than the free car that an ex-girlfriend's family gave my brother, which that car was a POS, but my dad's car was even more of a POS. So my brother got a can of spray paint and put an anarchy symbol on it and a bunch of bumper stickers, and it had all this kind of rust on it. And I called it the Cancer Mobile because it looked like it had cancer from all the rust spots. And then he subsequently drove that for a little while anyway. And we came and picked up Anderson once with 2 liters of wine coolers in the car. Went down to the Metro Parks. California, I think it was California Cooler. Was that or Cactus Cooler? One of those two.
No.
That came in the freaking 2-liter bottles.
It was a 2-liter bottle, yeah.
It was ridiculous. And, but yeah, my brother was the kind of dude where he would like, you know, just, he would step up, or if he kind of knew you or whatever, he'd just invite you to something, you know, and he'd just be
Even
like,
if he didn't know you, he would.
Right, pretty much, right? He'd be like, hey, you want to go to a party? Or, you know, you want to go to Chris's Warp Records? You want to go to Record Exchange, et cetera, you know? And if you got into the car with them, you might change your life. That's the only way I can describe it, because
put your life in your own hands.
You might suddenly have a whole new group of friends. I mean, kind of what happened, right? Like Joe, Mole, Dan, like these people, like, you know, if they hadn't like hung out with my brother for 5 minutes, you know what I mean? They weren't going to church together. They weren't going to games or anything. It was just like, hey, let's go to a party. And I don't know. And then they would go over like Vicky and Beans, which were these 2 girls we knew that had their own place, which, to be honest, I've been around for 50 years. Okay. We know all kinds of people that have had their own places, right?
We've been people with our own places.
And I've known a lot of people that have had roommates, etc. I don't know. I can't think of any. I'm sure I know at least one other one, but I can't think of, like, girls generally didn't live together on their own. I mean, in dorms or something, yeah. But like people that had apartments didn't live with other girls. Like, I can't think of anybody. Did Maria ever live with another girl? Like,
no, she always had her own place.
I can't. It was unusual because these girls weren't lesbians or anything. So it was just unusual in a way, because like there were 2 girls that were really cool that had their own place, and we would hang out there and party and everything. And not related or anything like that. Not even really that much alike. Like, Bean was this kind of bigger girl who was kind of punk, you know, and a bit more an extrovert, let's say. She, you know, you know, she's
more like Brian.
Yeah, kind of like my brother.
Version of Brian.
Just, you know, maybe a little bit more together than Brian, but yeah. Whereas Vicky was she was quiet. Like, you didn't quite kind of see her or anything. She was always kind of in the shadows or something until you broke out the bowl, and then and then she'd come out and she'd talk to you and for about an hour about nothing, and then you'd be like, all right, you know. She was kind of hot when she was younger, but she was too old for me. Like, what am I gonna do? Like, you know, she was hanging out with these older guys. Like, you know, she wasn't my age, so I can't hit her.
I played soccer with her.
Did you? She
ended up being on an indoor soccer team with me.
Oh, there you go. Well, I mean, when was that?
Sure.
The 90s, the 2000s?
Yeah, it was the 90s. It was the 90s, because it was like, it was either during high school or right afterwards.
Yeah, that's the kind of weird shit like she would do, right? She would join like a soccer league or something for no reason, not because some guy told her to join it or anything. Just like she would just suddenly decide to join a soccer league.
And that's the weird thing is because I'm playing on a soccer team with a bunch of people, and I'm like, how the hell does she get out here? Like, Brian, you weren't playing. Brian wasn't playing. You know what I mean? It's like you guys didn't come to the games. There was no connection. You know what I mean? Like I knew Vicky and Bean not as well as you or not
of course,
Brian.
Yeah.
But it's like I knew who they were.
Right.
And I think I like to think they knew who I was. I know Vicky does, but whatever.
Who doesn't know Don Anderson? Come on.
That's
lead singer of Adversary. And
what's her face? Rocky Dennis doesn't, according to when I texted her and said, "Hey, it's Anderson." She goes, "Anderson who?" And I was like, "Never mind." But yeah, everybody's still like, she's coming to town. Everybody should go visit her. I'm like, why would I want to go visit her? She doesn't even remember.
She knows who you are. She just got confused. She knows who you are. Yeah,
she's just mad. But anyways,
who could not know who you were? That's ridiculous.
No, she remembered. She's mad because whatever.
She's mad. What about? I don't even know what she would be mad about. What? You're not gonna tell me she's not listening? Tell me.
Well, let's just say that we never.
You messed around or something, and she's mad that you didn't go anywhere.
Yeah, and then like later on, it would be like, "Hey, why don't we do that again?" And I was just like, "No."
Oh,
like, I don't. Listen, we were all alone. There was nobody around. I had no problem then.
Listen,
now
I get like she kind of messed around with a bunch of different people, and
that's the other thing. It's just like I don't want to get involved with that because Bates. Anyways. So yeah, I ended up on the soccer team with Vicky, and I'm just like looking at him like, how the hell is she on this team? Like, how did who reached out to her? You know what I mean? It was like, hey Vicky, they're playing a soccer game. You want to be on a soccer team? Sure. Because it was a co-ed team. I'm like sitting there like, how did I get on a co-ed team? I don't remember how any of that happened.
Yeah.
I think maybe they called me. Maybe that's what it was. I think they had a team and they were like, "Oh, Anderson plays soccer. Send him over there."
That sounds like a thing. Yeah.
That might have been it. Now that I think about it. See, I smoked too much weed.
But anyway, we would go over there and we would party and everything. And, and then like, essentially where it went over the years. Cause I would have parties and all this sort of stuff too. Every so often my dad was out of town. It was ridiculous to have a party in these little apartments, but I did it. And, but when my brother was old enough to buy beer, right, 21, then all of you guys were hanging out with them more than I was,
Yeah.
I had a girlfriend that lived, pretty far away, Canada. No,
Mexico.
Right. Nah, she lived a few cities over, which was a distance, and I didn't drive or anything. So, it was usually off with her. And, but these guys would go over to my brother's house because my brother was always like, seriously, it didn't matter what day it was, as long as he wasn't working. You know what I mean? He'd just be like, "You guys, come over." You know what I mean? Like you talk to him, you're like, "Yeah, come over." You know what I mean? I think it was just like he didn't want he didn't care what Lori thought. His wife,
right?
Like he was just like like it was his way of rebelling in a way. Then he would constantly invite people over, which I get it because Lori can talk a lot. He was probably just like, please God, have somebody else over here, fucking
distract her.
Yeah, to just not have her talk to me about whatever the hell she wants to talk to me about. So everybody would just be over at his place constantly partying. And then he would also just he would just call it a party, but it would be virtually the same thing. It'd be like a whole bunch of people at his house just drinking and partying and everything. And he would play, mixtapes of music and,
listen to this.
Yeah. I mean, mostly we just kind of drink or watch videos or something. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's whatever.
It was always interesting for me because, like I said before, I never had all that much interaction with him. Because even when he lived with you, okay. So when I first met Kevin, just so everybody knows, when I first met Kevin, he was living in the 1-bedroom apartment in Jamestown with his dad, and it was just the two of them. And then Brian came home. Brian came back from California or whatever, and he was sleeping in a bed in the hallway. And it was like, That's cool. Did not did I was fine with that. I was like, I get it. The dude came back. He needed a place to sleep. Right? What's his dad going to do? Your dad going to say, no, get out of here. Go find your. No, he's like, come on in, son. We'll find a place for you. We'll put a bed in the corner. There you go. You can sleep. Little did I know that was foreshadowing for where Brian would be for the rest of his life. Right. Because then he ends up in the closet. Then there's like where he's in the little Bailey for a little while. It was just weird because he would call me and he'd be like, you want to come over? And I'd be like, oh my God, Brian Baird's calling me. Like, well,
this was the thing. This was a thing where I was talking to my brother just the other day about this, because sometimes he and I reminisce about like stupid shit our dad did or whatever. And but this was kind of off topic of that. But I was saying to him, I said, we didn't, like my brother and I, like we didn't realize it at the time. But like when girls would come over like our place, we probably were blowing their mind. Because like they were living like this normal kind of life, the family watching the Cosby Show or something, and having dinner at the table and drugs are bad or whatever. And, don't drink and drive, how that was back then. There's no internet, people, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like it was just like word of mouth, and then you come over to our place and it's just like, there's fucking crazy Danzig video on the TV, there's always
some video,
somebody smoking dope, which to some people is like you're on your way to prison or something, at that time. Yeah. You're like, oh my God, you're doing something so incredibly wrong, and just like we dressed kind of like how we wanted. We were going to metal concerts. We had money because we worked, and there were all these like kind of shady looking people going in and out all the time. And they were probably just like, they were just probably like just, like it was probably just amazing in a way to them because they weren't exposed to anything like that. And to be honest, I wouldn't have been exposed really to anything like that, at least for years later, unless my brother had come back from the Navy. You know what I mean? Right. So it was like like what you're saying too, like seeing some guy sleeping in the hallway, like the whole thing was just kind of like this, at the time, it was this unusual chaos, but for us, it was kind of normal, but yeah, you get used to it. You know what I mean? Like at first you don't know what my brother is. You're just like, this guy's funny and weird. You know what I mean? And after a while you just see him. You're just like, hey, Brian, what's up? Yeah. And he would take your comic books and go sell them and shit.
Yeah, son of a bitch. City Beneath the Surface / Sirens.
Double.
Son of a bitch. But yeah, it was like even when he was sleeping in the hallway or whatever in the corner, it's like I never really saw him that much because if I ever came over, I didn't come over to your house very often.
No. Because not until like senior year when we were driving me to school and home and shit.
Right.
And he was out. He was already gone. Yeah.
And we knew your dad was at work, so he wouldn't be home.
Yeah.
But that was like and it's like, so I never really got overexposed to them. And it was always awesome for me. It would be like, hey, we're all going to the mall. And I'd be like, okay, we're going to see Packard, Nas, Rom, or whatever. And he'd be like, Brian's going to be there. And I'd be like, let's go. I don't know, just because it was just like, hey, awesome. I don't see him that often. Right. And I don't know if you know this, but I used to go up to, like, if I was out and about by myself running around North Homestead, you know how it was back in the day on the strip. You'd be like, I got to hit Record Den, Record Town, Tape World. Yep. You got to hit everything, hit all the stores. Half the times I would run into Hills just to go talk to him, just to go pick his brain and be like, dude, what do you like secret stuff? I was like, oh, you know what? I'll ask Brian about this stuff because he'll be honest with me.
Yeah.
And he'll tell me the real stuff because he was so, I don't know. It was just like, he's from another world. He's from, California. He's been in the Navy and he's been around the world. He knows all this stuff.
Right.
And so I would always go and find him and just be like, just sit by him. Because he just always makes me laugh.
Yeah, well, he would talk shit, and the other thing is like, but you could also like in those days, you could just go up to him and ask him about like a metal band or a show or something on TV. I mean, whatever it was, like pop culture at that point, like he would have an opinion, and then he would probably whip something out and hand you something that you didn't even know what it was. Like he'd give you a cassette tape or something, be like, listen to that, or he'd hand you a poster or a freaking a t-shirt or something, and you just be like, what is this bolt thrower? I don't know what this is, listen to it. It's great. And you would, you listen, and you might not like it, but you'd be like, all right, this is crazy. Go ahead.
I had a cassette that he made or whatever. I don't know what it was. It's that you'll probably remember it. It said DI on it.
Yeah,
it was
sure.
there was a cassette that he had, and that's all it said was DI on it. And he would just pass it. He would just pass it around. And I remember he gave it to me. He was like, "Here, go listen to this." And I was just like, "Whatever." And I went and put it in my pocket. I never listened to it, or I put it in once and listened to it. I was like, "Yeah, this isn't for me."
It's punk. Yeah, he was always trying to get everybody to listen to punk, but I mean, only Bates and maybe Bruler kind of got into punk. Yeah. Mostly everybody else was just into metal.
The dude is so honest. Like, not, I don't want to say to a fault, but I think that's what it is the fact that's why, like, just like you, I'll tell everybody, I'll be like, if I got like a serious question, or if I got something that I'm really like debating over, I'm going to come to you. Because why would I do that? Because Kevin Baer is going to look at it and be like, this is what you're looking at. You know what I mean? You're not gonna fluff it up. You're not gonna bullshit me. You're not gonna do anything like that. You're just because you see that there's no harm in you telling the truth. There's no harm in you being honest or anything like that. And Brian's kind of the same way, to the point where, like, I could walk up to him, and this has happened where I've walked up to him at like a cinema wasteland. And I drop down on the couch next to him, and I get in his face, and I'm like, "What's up, dude?" And he just kind of looks at me, reaches in his pocket, pulls out a piece of gum, and hands it to me, because you need this.
That's my brother.
And it's just, and that's like a perfect analogy. I think that's Brian in like a nutshell, other than help him in a nutshell. But I mean, that's him. You know what I mean? Yeah. He's the kind of guy that'd be like, I'll mock you, but I'm still gonna, you know what I mean? It's like, I'm mocking you because you got bad breath, but here's a piece of gum to solve the problem. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it's,
but it's true. But the thing is, I think one of the differences that I have with my brother, he doesn't seem to have any guilt. He doesn't feel guilty about anything. He knows right from wrong. So he knows that if he did something wrong, he'll say he's sorry about it, but not because he feels guilty. Just that he knows that was wrong, and sorry is the acceptable thing to say, because he honestly doesn't feel guilt. He just doesn't. I don't know why it is that way. Maybe it was because of the way we were raised and you just couldn't give a shit anymore, or whatever it is. But like, the guy has no like guilt in him. I don't know how to describe it. So you're right. He'll tell you whatever. He's not going to feel, if he hurts your feelings or something, he's not going to feel terrible about it. He's just not,
Nah.
It's not going to eat him up. It's not going to bother him. He gets through life like, pretty much, happy most of the time, because he just doesn't feel guilty about anything, or, you know what I mean? He doesn't, sometimes he'll feel down and bummed out or something if something's bothering him, but he doesn't have the, like I think Joe, our friend Joe, like, spends his entire life feeling guilty about all the things he did when he was younger, because we never hear the end of them when we're hanging around him. Constantly brings them up. But like my brother, nope, just none of that, none of it, where I will, like, if you ask me something, I will tell you straight what it is. But if it's really sensitive, I might be like,
he doesn't care. He'll stick his finger in your mashed potatoes.
Totally. Yeah. It's funny.
These are mine now.
Totally did that Thanksgiving. I knew he was going to do that, so I did it to him first. Because it's just the way of things with my brother. Who knows where that finger's been? Exactly. It's funny when you're talking. You mentioned Bates and like Dayton, Rocky Dennis there. But it was one of those things too, like with Bates and Bruler and those guys, like some other people I know, like Burnett maybe, Chris Bosa. Those guys, like, could you see yourself in a situation, or is this just me? I'm asking you a question. Can you see yourself in a situation, like, let's say you're in a room, you're getting it on with, like, somebody like, who you were talking about earlier, right?
Right.
And then like Bates might come in naked or something and try to join in. You know what I mean? And you'd be like, what are you doing? Like, get out. But like for him, that would be like totally normal. You know what I mean? Like, not gay. Like, he's not trying to get it on with you. You know what I mean? But he would like want to join in, like with a threesome kind of thing. And you would be like, you'd be like, dude, you gotta go. And and that didn't happen to me or anything. But that's like the kind of thing that would sometimes sit in the back of my brain when I hung out with these guys. Like, I got to be kind of careful what I'm exposing myself to around some of these dudes, because they're a little bit further over than I am, I guess. I don't know. Does that make sense? I don't know if you ever had like those kinds of thoughts, because sometimes I've heard things too about some of those guys doing some things together, and I was just kind of like, yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know.
I've told you that.
Right. Yes.
He went up to the ex-wife and he was just like, why don't you two come over our house and we'll have sex in one corner and you have sex in the other corner. And I was like, why would we want to do that? And he's like, so we could watch each other. And I was like, why would I want to watch you?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
What?
Yeah. I don't know where that comes from amongst our friends. I have no interest in that at all. It's weird. And I can hang out with people like Tilner, who we all kind of knew was gay. You know what I mean? And never have any of that weirdness. You know what I mean? But just, I don't know. There was like this, certain people like Bates had this like weird, what's it?
Has he admitted it?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, really? Oh.
I mean, I can't, I obviously,
I mean,
like
I don't think he was ever hiding it. I just don't think
he never admitted it.
I just don't think he ever really was sure about it. Because like he and I talked way back in the Manchu Walk days, and he had told me, because I had accused him back then, because my I could tell even back then, and I had accused him of being gay. And for people that are curious, it wasn't like, you're gay, ew, you know what I mean? Like, it was just like a kind of a passive conversation and sort of stuff like, hey man, if you're gay, you're gay. It's all right. You know what I mean? You don't have a girlfriend, you're it's cool. That's kind of how I am with people. It's just like, you don't gotta, like, don't worry about it. You know what I mean? Like, don't talk to, I don't give a shit, And, but he was like, no, he's like, I'm not. He's like, and he kind of explained to me that like at one time, like, when he was following the band, like Duran Duran or something, he had some dude that was like kind of like a boyfriend, but like not really, like they never did anything or anything. And he's like, and then since then he's like he hasn't been, he hadn't been. He had a girlfriend, and I thought he had gone to California with her, but he and I had this conversation that he had driven her out there and then come back or something, and so. Like he would talk about it every so often, and he was kind of like, he kind of was interested in hanging out with people like, Kelly Carlin, and those kind of people, like it seemed like he had some interest in certain people, girls is what I mean. And certainly nothing for any of us, you know what I mean? Dudes, like, never, like, no, not at all. Like, I mean, just, I never was partying with us, going to shows and, and, buying people beer and stuff like that. Like, but also
he was more motherly.
Yeah. And he was really soft spoken.
But anyway,
but also like a kind of a strong dude. Like, you wouldn't really want to get into a scrap with him, really. 'Cause I mean, he's kind of tough, but, anyway, yeah. He admitted to it, but I still don't know. Like I told him before, I was like, listen, I don't care that you are.
No, neither.
That's why I told him just recently, though. I was like, I was like, when he came out, this is like 5 years ago or something. I was like, I don't care either way. Like, you going to the movie this weekend or not? Just doesn't matter to me. But yeah, no, anyway, like, we're off topic, but, I just had to ask about that because, like, there's just some people that always kind of made me just kind of wonder, like, I don't know. Like that one time when everybody was, whacking off, was it at Rom's house or something?
Everybody was into the GGL and stuff.
Yeah. And they were like, his parents were upstairs and they were all doing like these kinds of things. Like, I just can't.
Yeah, there was no
can't get my brain around it. I just can't do it. Part of me is still sheltered, I guess. I don't know. I mean, there's just some weirdness that I'm just not part of.
And there's nothing wrong with that. You're fine. You're allowed to be like that, Kevin.
All right. Well, thank you. I'm glad that
you shouldn't have to want to go drink a quart of milk or go drink a half gallon of chocolate milk and then go sniff sardines and puke it up in somebody's yard.
Yeah,
that
was another weird thing. Like we had to I picked up some of our friends, or we were meeting in the park, and they were like, "We're going to go puke," and I was like, "What are we doing?" And they're like, "Yeah, it's awesome, dude. I love it.
Yeah.
We're going to go fucking vomit. It's fucking great. I got fucking sardines. It makes us fucking, you smell it and you just want to fucking vomit." And I was just like, I don't even know what I was thinking back then. I mean, I didn't care, I guess. I was just like, whatever. I wasn't doing it, but I was like, all right. And that's what they did, man.
And then everybody goes, "How come Kevin Bear doesn't hang out anymore?" And I'm just sitting there looking at them all, like shaking my head, like, "Because you guys are idiots, man."
So fucking funny, man. I don't know. It's just crazy. It's like how do you even explain that to people? I can't tell my dad that. What you got? What'd you do today?
Yeah.
Well, hung out with my friends. They all went to the park to vomit on purpose.
Yeah, they all went to Adam's house and puked in his yard. Then they went to George's house and puked in his yard. I think they would just go to people's random yards and go puke in their front yard and like hope that they were looking out the window staring at them.
Why? I think Oz even had a magazine that had like pictures of vomit in it or something like that.
They had all kinds. They had like a whole pack of stuff. They were just
so fucking bizarre, man. I'm sure if you talk about it to him today, he'd still tell you it's great. And
he's like, "I'll do it." Like, no.
He's like, you'd probably be like, "You want to go puke? You want to go? Do you want to go?" You'd be pointing to people. Let's go do it right now. They're like, "No." Fuck no, man. What's wrong with you?
Now, note to everybody: Brian Baird was not a puker.
No,
this is. I know. We were talking about Brian for the majority of the show, and we kind of switched off here. But don't get it confused. We're not talking about this because of.
Yeah, I guess I'm just saying there's some, like, we've talked a lot of stories on this show, but there's just been some stuff that's just so bizarre, I guess, that it's hard to even talk about some of this stuff because it's so strange.
Not that this is as bizarre as some of that stuff, but we would go to Convenient and buy as much flammable stuff as we could, and then go to Adam's house and build a fire in a barrel, and then we would just throw stuff into the barrel and see what would explode in what way.
I can't understand. Like, Adam lives in a house in a suburb, and luckily he doesn't have a neighbor behind his house. It was like a church or something, right? Soccer field. But he's got normal neighbors on the sides of his house, and
one side.
He and also in the, even though it's Stearns, he has a front yard neighbors, right?
No, that's a building. There's like a
I thought he had a house across the street from him. It's a church.
There is one. There is one, but right next to that's like a big open area with a big building in it, like an old church.
And just he says but he's like having like burning a doghouse and open fires and gunshots, right, with the dog.
When I first started playing golf, I would go over his house and hit golf balls out of his backyard into the soccer field, and then go out to the soccer field, collect them up, bring them back, and start hitting them again.
I don't know how he didn't get. But like I went to Adam's house once. His fucking house looks like something out of like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's just like it was this unpainted gray, just a door. There was no screen door. House. Unkempt lawn, driveways, dirt, basically.
Tree in the middle of it.
And there was a trailer, like one of them little trailers, like for camping. At the end of the driveway, and there was a light on inside of it.
Yeah.
And
you were there when Gary was there.
Yeah. And I'm going to a party at Adam's. There's people partying at Adam's house, right? It's probably about 30 people in his house or whatever, and outside in the backyard too and stuff. But there's some dude just like living in this trailer in his driveway. And I guess this is his brother, but it's just like, people are walking in and out, right, of his place, going up and down this driveway. And there's some dude with his lights on, and you're like, kind of like looking in his living room, right? Where he's hanging out, like just whatever he's doing in there. And I'm just like, fucking weird, man. It's weird, right? Like, what are you doing living in a driveway? Like, what are you, I don't even understand that you have a house right there. It's part yours. Why are you living in the trailer?
Because he refused to live in the house. And it eventually got to a point, I wasn't there for this. This is coming from Oz and Rob. But I guess they were in there the one night and they were partying. They got loud stuff, and he came in with like a lead pipe and started bashing stuff. And started yelling and screaming.
Of course he did. Of course.
You guys are in here all the time, and all you do is make noise, and all you're doing is drinking, and all you're doing is partying, and blah blah. They just like freaked out. They all just, I guess, Rob and Oz were just like laughing at him. It was a whole thing.
I love the story where Adam had opened up his cabinet and there was a possum inside of it too. Like that's just the kind of, like, where does that happen? Like, it's just crazy.
No, the funniest. I mean, yes. There's all the animal stories. You know what I mean? But
yes, folks. That's not the only one.
Dude, he has a big tree sitting out the back, like right out his bedroom window. Right, he's got his bedroom on the second floor. He's got this huge tree, and him and Clint would sit out there with BB guns and wait for raccoons to come climbing in the trees and start shooting at them. And they would always miss because the guns were always
crap.
Yeah, they weren't that good. The funniest story. I probably said it before, and you probably remember what I started saying. Adam used to have Adam had a hole in his floor upstairs in his bedroom, and he would put a metal sheet over the top of it so he wouldn't fall through it or whatever. And the one day I was sitting there. I'm sitting there minding my own business. We're just sitting there walking the dog, doing our thing. And Clint's standing up, and he spins around. And I don't know if he kicked the thing off of it, or if the thing got moved off of it, or if it just wasn't there or whatever. But when he planted his foot down, it went right through that hole, and he sunk right up to his balls. Like, it was like, whoom, like so instant. And I never laughed so hard in my life because it was like the funniest thing I'd ever seen.
Where was the hole downstairs? Like, where would his foot have been? In the middle of the living room, or where did it
came out? Yeah, it came out more towards the bathroom.
Okay. All right.
When you were in there, it was probably broken up into like 3 rooms, the downstairs, because there was like a kitchen and then like a dining room. And a living room.
Yeah.
But then he knocked all the walls out, and that's when he had the hole in the floor upstairs. And it's just like, we always said, dude, why don't you cover this up? We got to fix this. You got to fix this. He's like, don't worry. And then when Clint fell through there, man, I could still picture it. And I could just see him. He's got one leg up on the floor, and he's got one leg down in a hole. and he's just like, wow. He's like freaking out. He's like, what's going on? And I'm just laughing because it's just like, that's great. That's awesome. His flip-flop fell off his foot, landed in the kitchen. It was great. That house is
so fucked up. Yeah. All right, folks. Sorry, we went on a little nostalgia trip there. But Brian Bair, great guy, and we wanted to give you a little background on his history there, and a little bit of fun talk about some of his many antics. Although you've probably heard many of them in the Midwest Wasteland histories, which you can find on our Patreon. All of the old shows, if you ever want to listen to them.
And note to self: oddly enough, I don't think I've ever seen Brian Baird in Adam's house. Just throwing that out there.
I think that's probably true. I don't think. Well.
Weird, huh?
Maybe, but probably not.
Yeah, he's probably been there.
Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you next week. Have a good
Peace. One. Later.
You've been listening to Oblast with Don and Kevin. If you'd like to write into the show, send an email to oblast@vgn.us. That is VGN as in video game news. And be sure to check out our Patreon page, which is at patreon.com/VGN, where you can get all of our shows, our videos, and some musings. Be sure to tune in each week for new episodes on our Patreon page or every other week on the public RSS feed that you're subscribed to now. Thanks for listening, and good night.
Peace.